Coming up on the show, we're going to get you ready to go back to school once again. This morning, we're going to catch up with the Marietta and Fulton County superintendents. Also, one nasty sign of return to the classroom, checking your kids for head lice. We're going to share some tips on what you need to look for and how you can beat it. Everybody wants to beat it. And Hollywood of the South still rolling, but we're going to explain why for many in Atlanta's film world, the credits are coming sooner than the paychecks. This is The Take. Let's get it. Hello and welcome. I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines and we look at the why and how stories are impacting you and your community. We invite the experts in to give their take on today's top stories, and we try to have just a little bit of fun as well. This, not fun. Let's start you off right here. Yesterday, more gun violence across metro Atlanta. One scene unfolded in Henry County along Howell Drive, this near Locust Grove and just east of Cole Reservoir. The 11Alive storm tracker was over the scene as law enforcement tried to piece together what happened. And we're told that one person, 17-year-old Sean Bunkley, was shot and killed. No word on what led to his death. 3 people are in custody after a drive-by shooting in Clayton County. 2 people were injured in the gunfire. This was at the Bridgewater and Mount Zion apartment complex. We're working to find out the victim's condition and what exactly led to the shooting. Witnesses tell us that the shooting happened in front of a child. All this on top of the violence that we saw over the weekend in Fulton County. In just matters of a few days, we saw a mass shooting in the city, and Grady Hospital tells us that they treated 47 gunshot victims between Thursday and Monday. And while there's still questions surrounding why all these acts of gun violence took place, they come while experiencing sweltering heat. Boy, it was hot over the last couple of days. A 2023 study from Emory University examined incidents that happened between 2025 and 2021. It found the odds of a fatal police shooting rose by 3% if the daily maximum outdoor temperature rose by 9 degrees Fahrenheit. Wow. The strongest example of these were when victims were armed over the age of 45, and the incidents happened outdoors. All right, back with us this morning is Professor Thaddeus Johnson from Georgia State's Department of Criminal Justice and Criminology. He is joining us this morning. Good morning to you, Thad.
Good morning, good to see you.
Yeah, welcome back to the show, man. All right, talk to me about this, man. You know, when we were in the field, we did departments, when you were in the field, you did departments planning differently, hotter weekends, led to more violence, that kind of thing. What is it with the temperature and people with gun violence around here?
No, thank you for also including police officers in the conversation, because citizens and police, they're dealing with the same thing out in this hot sun. And what we do know about the hot temperatures is that when temperatures spike, people are out and about more. They're bumping into each other, and perhaps tempers will run hotter. People don't know each other's boundaries, particularly you have a lot of churn and change with new people in our city, both residents and living. Then think about the lack of supervision for juveniles compared to during the school year and things of that nature. And this heat really ramps up aggression. It impacts our body's fight or flight chemicals, so even small conflicts can explode into violence. And I will say, we see this in prisons as well. We also see this in public housing and in your urban island where things can be a little bit warmer, a little bit denser, and have less AC. And so the bottom line is that it's not the only factor, but it can actually add irritability and some biological factors into the play that really leads to violence. And of course, you throw alcohol and guns into play, that kind of lifts the equation as well.
I was alluding to the fact earlier that you were a police officer. Folks may not know that as they're watching. Was there ever an incident where you can recall where the extreme heat caused more of a challenge when you were out on the force?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, we have our uniforms on. We have our ballistic vests. We probably have about 10 to 15 pounds of gear on, right? And even when I was a bike patrol officer. And even in those extreme temperatures, we had to take more breaks. We had to be more strategic with our calls. We had to try to not be short-tempered and short with our citizens, but also thinking about our exposure and their exposure for health reasons. And so it can be a real challenge if you have to get into a foot chase. It can be really challenging, or not to mention if you have a vehicle that doesn't have the best AC, that can be a logistic challenge as well. So officers are really impacted, and we really have to watch our aggression, have to watch our temperament, particularly in those situations, and monitor how the heat has impacted us.
You know, really didn't think about that, the stress on both sides. Obviously, the fighting that's going on outside or folks that's getting frustrated by the heat and they're messing around with guns. You guys have to think about that as well. Didn't really think about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we start thinking about, when these, we have more liberal gun laws in places, over the last couple of years, we have to treat every incident like it could potentially be an armed incident. And so even how we approach citizens may be a little bit different now than it was when I was addressing these things. But you absolutely know that when you're out in the summer and there's a big party or there's a big event in the city, like we saw in Edgewood, there may be alcohol involved, there may be strangers involved, and we know there may be also be guns in those vehicles. So that makes the policing job a little bit different in how we may even approach situations compared to maybe 20 years ago.
So what's the approach? What's the best approach when temperatures get this hot, right? And you have an incident out there. How do you approach a situation like that?
Well, first of all, if you're a citizen, you just want to recognize that if alcohol is around, if you're in a parking lot in an area, oftentimes if you're inside a building or establishment, we would expect to be safe with security and things there. And as you mentioned in your particular study, that it was when things are outside that it was most common. And so I think, having an extra focus on these events, or if you get wind of parties and things. Also, if there are places, make sure you have hydration stations for your officers and for people walking up and down the street. And the truth be told, there's no magic bullet. You have to keep doing the things that help drive crime down in the first place. Our group intervention models like Cure Violence. You can have greening and cooling stations, particularly in your hottest blocks. And remember, most of the time, these incidents are clustered in the same neighborhoods over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. And so we can engage with greening and cooling, tree canopies, shading. If you have public housing, make sure that we have ACs there. If you have prison detention centers, make sure that they also have AC and reliable fans in there, because we've seen misconduct and violence go up in these facilities as well when the temperature goes up outside. And we cannot forget about them, both those inside and those working there.
Good points, very good points. We're going to make you chief for a day to get those things done. Professor Thaddeus Johnson with Georgia State. Thanks so much for joining us, and thanks so much for your insight, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, as always.
All right. Speaking of hot, it's going to be hot again today, folks. Not as hot as what we have seen. We're looking at temperatures today around 93 degrees, 40% chance for a few scattered showers, thunderstorms during the afternoon. Of course, that will help to cool us off. Now, yesterday we saw that temperature get up to 100, but the showers and thunderstorms didn't come until late in the day. After about 6 or 7 o'clock is when we start to see those begin to fire up. So it allowed that temperature to really heat up. Today, I think the showers will be around a little bit earlier, after about 1 or 2 o'clock. Now, if that doesn't take place, obviously the temperature will be a little bit higher. Same thing will take place over the next couple of days. Hopefully the gun violence will stay down, right? We're looking at the temperature finally dropping as we head into the weekend, down to the 80s, and that's the way it's going to be as we start the work week next week. Hey, don't go anywhere. We got much more for you coming up right after the break. Well, welcome back to the show. President Trump back in Washington today, but as he returned from Scotland, he shared more about his connection with the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. And join us now is Washington correspondent Alice Barr. And Alice, this started as the president held a press gaggle on board the Air Force One. Talk to us about what he accused Epstein of doing.
Yeah, this is a new story, essentially, that we're hearing about the rift between President Trump and his one-time friend, Jeffrey Epstein. He has said many times that they had not been in contact for some 20 years before Epstein died in jail. And the president was asked about some recent comments he'd made about the fallout. The White House has repeatedly said that the president kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago for, quote, being a creep. When Epstein died in prison again, the two had not spoken in 15 to 20 years. In Scotland, President Trump said that he had kicked Epstein out for actually stealing Mar-a-Lago employees. So that was the new sort of concept introduced. And on the flight home, he gave more details, saying that one of the people, in fact, that was stolen by Epstein was Virginia Giuffre, and she is someone who was a prominent Epstein accuser. She actually died by suicide earlier this year, but she did evidently work in the spa at Mar-a-Lago, and President Trump said that she was one of the people that Epstein stole away, hired away, and that was something the president really did not like. And he said he told Epstein not to do it. He did it again, and then he kicked him out of the club and called him persona non grata for a dispute over employees, apparently.
I see. Okay. On to former Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell. She had agreed to testify before Congress, but there's a catch to this, right?
Yeah, so Maxwell has been subpoenaed to testify by the House Oversight Committee on August 11th. Her attorneys have requested that she be granted immunity, saying otherwise that she would assert her Fifth Amendment rights. So she would not speak unless she's given immunity to speak to Congress. And the attorneys also asked to delay her appearance until after the Supreme Court decides whether they're going to weigh in on a request to have her conviction overturned. Remember, she's serving 20 years in prison for her role in abusing young girls. And just to go back slightly, because apparently it was Maxwell who approached Virginia Giuffre, who I was just speaking about going to Epstein's home for an interview. So a lot of people are pointing to how very deeply involved Maxwell was in this really terrible, sprawling, and years-long abuse scheme that Jeffrey Epstein was running. So it's very serious involvement. There are these questions about whether she's going to get some kind of a deal, and she wants immunity. And the committee chairman says they're going to respond to her letter overall, but they will not consider granting immunity for her testimony.
Alice, there's been so many conspiracy theories around Epstein's death, which is regarded as a suicide, but the Justice Department says it has some evidence to back that up now.
Right. So there's this missing minute on the tape from the jail cell where Jeffrey Epstein was being held when he died by suicide. The Justice Department, the FBI, released a whole bunch of this video, but there was 1 minute that was missing. And the Attorney General had said that it was missing because the tape resets at a certain time every day and that there's always a missing minute. Of course, in a case that has been fueling so many conspiracy theories, the fact that there was a missing minute and that many people do not believe that Epstein died by suicide. They think that there was some kind of cover-up because they think that there was this incriminating client list and that there were powerful people who did not want him to speak. The fact that there was a missing minute has been a major point of contention, but the FBI and the Justice Department now say that they're investigating reports that, in fact, that minute does exist on tapes that law enforcement has, and that could relieve all of this concern. But really, the genie's kind of out of the bottle at this point. They continue to say that does not change anything, that Epstein did die by suicide, and that there is no incriminating client list.
All right,
Chesley.
Alice Barr, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your insight. Appreciate it. All right, we got plenty more stories for you coming up, folks. This is The Take on 11 Live Plus and the ATL. We're back right after this. Atlanta, often referred to as the Hollywood of the South, but now the city's booming film industry is facing a new reality. Fewer big budget projects, fewer jobs. Jonathan Martin joins us now to explain how the industry is adapting as part of his Affording Atlanta series. Jonathan, what's behind the history of the industry slowdown?
Well, Chesley, the short answer is that budgets are just tighter, according to the Georgia Film Office. You know, a lot of the big budget productions have moved overseas. That's where they're filming right now. And we have seen that really for the last couple of years. It's just cheaper. A lot of us remember the post-pandemic production boom here in Atlanta. You had big movies like Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Spider-Man, all of them filming here after the pandemic, and things came to a halt in 2023 with both the actors and writers strikes. And a lot of people thought the industry was going to bounce back, but everyone we've spoken to say it just hasn't. And they've really said it's been slow, especially the last year and a half here. So fewer productions obviously means fewer jobs, as you mentioned.
Yeah, you talked to the film office. What are they saying about the slowdown?
Well, the Georgia Film Office, they acknowledge there has been a significant slowdown. They say that the industry right now is adjusting to a new normal. I want to give you some numbers that I got from the Atlanta Film Office. This year so far, they've issued 475 film permits. That might sound like a lot, but 2 years ago, that number was well over 900. So we've seen about a 45% drop in the number of film permits issued here in Atlanta just in 2 years. So that really shows you the drop that we've seen when it comes to the production here.
So many people move here for this industry. You get a lot of folks that want to be actors or aspiring to be behind the camera. What are they saying about this adjustment?
Yeah, you're right. I've had a lot of personal friends who moved here from LA or New York to move here to Atlanta because it is really popping when it comes to the industry. A lot of them are saying that they're having to pivot pretty much, that some people who used to just focus on big film projects are now deciding that, hey, let's get into reality TV, let's get into commercials. We talked to a costume designer in my story, a production supervisor, also a man who's acted in some major productions over the last 15 years. Everyone says, of course, you got to have a side hustle these days, but also within the industry, you have to be malleable and be willing to do more than you were doing maybe 2 years ago.
Are you seeing the same with shows? Because there's a lot of shows being filmed here as well. Is it just with films, or is it with the shows that are filmed here as well?
Well, it's a little bit of both. Right now, there are 4 films in production here in Atlanta. That may sound like a lot, but none of them are the big blockbuster films. But in terms of TV shows, there are 18 TV shows being produced here. So the TV industry, if you will, is doing a little bit better, but overall, it's still just a lot more expensive. So the big budget films are what we're seeing move to other cities and pretty much other countries at this point.
Yeah. Is there any optimism out there? Is there any hope that things could be turned around?
There is hope. We talked to some of the people, not only with the Georgia Film Office, but some of the actors. Of course, the Superman movie was filmed here last year. There's rumors that we could see more Marvel superhero movies on the way. But also, they also point out that Atlanta still has an edge over many markets. You have all the studios. Of course, we often talk about Tyler Perry Studios. There's Trilla Studios, Atlanta Metro, several others here. So we have the studio space. Also, the tax incentives make Atlanta a much more attractive place than maybe some other markets, and the base of people here. So the feeling is that, hey, it's going to take a while, but if it bounces back, maybe not to pre-pandemic levels or pandemic levels right after, that we could see Atlanta still being one of the hotter spots compared to maybe LA or places in Louisiana.
Yeah, and you said a lot of these jobs are going overseas, right? Not locally, not staying here in the United States, but a lot of these jobs are going overseas.
Yeah, they're going overseas. The Georgia Film Office told us that when some of these new labor contracts were put in place, it drove the prices way up here in the state. So it's a lot more attractive to go do productions overseas. You save money. And unfortunately, that's meant that a lot of people here in our community are not a part of that.
Gotcha. I wanted to say this Hollywood of South. I enjoy riding down the street sometimes, seeing these big-time celebrities around here. So let's keep it here.
Yeah, we got to keep it. It's a part of it, and we've got the space now, so we got to keep these studios full of productions.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Jonathan. Really appreciate your report. All right. Coming up on the show, we're going to check in with the Gridlock Guy to see what the latest is happening on these Atlanta streets. Don't go anywhere. This is The Take. We're back right after this. Well, for years, Atlanta drivers knew to look to the skies for traffic updates, thanks to our Gridlock Guy, Doug Turnbull, circling around in his helicopter. But these days, he's traded in that altitude for some asphalt. He's down here on the ground now. And he joins us from the 11Alive Traffic Impact Tracker. Doug, welcome back to the show.
Hey, it's an honor to be back on with you. I was off last week, and I think you had some time off before that, so it's good to be back with you in this big seat here.
Yes, indeed. How different does it feel to be reporting traffic from the driver's seat instead of the skies?
Well, it's certainly different just because you're used to, I was used to in between traffic reports in my previous stop. You run out and get in a helicopter, and of course I was on radio, so I was getting there wearing sandals and shorts and things like that. That's not really a thing on TV, right? But in the skies, you're up above everything. You see this macro perspective, and you can go places a lot faster. However, a morning like this, Chesley, where you dial up a little cloud, a little fog action, that might have kept us on the ground, and that never stopped the 11Alive Traffic Impact Tracker that I'm riding in right now. We were able to ride without any hindrance all morning long, and while it takes longer to go places, I also have more signal. We have internet built into this truck. I'm using my full laptop. I'm helping Rachel Cox-Rosen, who's in the studio and has her hands full, building maps and walking back and forth to the set. I'm helping her find new traffic problems, and then we are able to communicate together to figure out where I drive to next and what I cover. So I'm a lot more connected in the truck, but it takes longer to go places. And then, Chesley, when I get to those places, I can get right up close and see what's happening here. Our photographer to my left, Stephen Boise, knows all the good little places to park to get us those good shots.
Which do you like better? You like being on the road, or you like being in the air better?
I mean, the helicopter is a way better icebreaker at a party, all right? So, I mean, of course, because hardly anybody's in helicopters anymore, but it makes a lot more financial sense and even logistical sense to be in the position we are now in the Traffic Impact Tracker. So I really like them both, and it's really a huge honor here after I had 20 years off and on being in a helicopter to get to be here with this great team at 11Alive and do this. And be on with you too, Chesley, by the way.
I appreciate that. Yeah. What's one of the things you have seen or experienced that you got on the ground that you couldn't get from 1,000 feet up in the air?
Well, how about any kind of crash or traffic delay in or near the airport? That's the first thing that comes to mind. Is the Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International does allow the helicopters to come through and cover things, but you really have to decide, do I really want to put my pilot through this ordeal of raising the control tower and trying to thread the needle in between jumbo jets taking off to go look at a crash in a right lane on 285? There's no question we could go look at that when it's Boise and me. Also, too, when it's really dark, it's hard to see things from up top, and we get on the roads usually at 5:30 in the morning, so if there is construction or something like that, we can pull right up on it. We also, at DeKalb Peachtree Airport in the helicopter, that we couldn't take off until 6 o'clock because of a noise ordinance, too. So we had several things going against us that we can circumvent here in the truck.
Yeah. All right. One of the things I know you got on your mind now is the change, the big time change that's coming to our area, which means back to school, right? And knowing how to behave in those school zones. Share some tips, man, about how we should navigate this back to school traffic.
All right, I need everybody watching here on 11Alive Plus, either live or if you're watching the replay, to lock in, okay? You got to be alert in school zones. And I know that seems obvious, but we are more and more distracted by these guys, by our phones. You need your eyes on the road and the hands on the wheel, as Jim Morrison said, and you need to dial down those speeds. 25 mile an hour, if you were to unfortunately hit a child or a pedestrian in a work zone, your chances of surviving 25 miles an hour are something like twice that if you were to hit somebody at 35. That's why those school zones have the 25 mile an hour speed limit, so mind your speeds. And beware, when you're leaving a neighborhood, if you're new to the neighborhood and there's a school in it or a bus route, it could take you several minutes longer to get out of that neighborhood on the first day of school. And we'll also see traffic patterns in a macro sense really after Labor Day get to where it's like, oh my gosh, school's back in. So watch 11Alive, watch 11Alive Plus, leave early, and be alert. Those are some good tips.
There you go. All right, Doug Turnbull, Gridlock Guy. Really appreciate your insight, man. Thanks for being with us today. All right. All right, back to school next week, as Doug mentioned. In fact, some going back to school this week. We're going to talk to the superintendent of Marietta City Schools to find out how they're preparing for the students to come in. That's right after the break. Stay with us. All right, all this week we're getting you ready to go back to school by talking to some of the key educational leaders across Metro Atlanta and to find out some of the top issues for their district. We will continue our look into Marietta City Schools districts this morning with the superintendent, Dr. Grant Rivera. Welcome back to the show. Well, welcome to the show. I've interviewed you a couple times now. I'm saying welcome back, but this is your first time on The Take. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, good to be with you, Chesley. Good morning.
Not a problem at all. Hey, when the students walk in on the first day, what's the vibe you want them to feel across the district?
Oh, I think in Marietta, but I would say across all schools in Metro Atlanta, the energy of meeting your new teacher, the energy of being back in school. I think every one of us as adults remembers that special teacher who changed their life. And I think certainly we're about to embark on those new relationships in this exciting new school year. And I think across Metro Atlanta, but certainly in Marietta, we're excited to welcome our kids back.
Last week, the federal government signed off on a release of dollars for funding school districts. Do you know how much money that you'll be receiving? And if so, how is that going to be used?
Yeah, I think certainly as we receive both state and federal dollars, as Marietta has done in past years, our goal is to make sure we put those as close to the classroom as possible. So for us, it's about making sure we leverage every dollar to have an impact for children. We're grateful for the funding that we get. Certainly we understand that things are tighter relative to budgets, but we're making the most of what we've got and want our teachers and families to know they have the resources they need.
Yeah. One of the biggest priorities for families, especially today, is safety. What's your plan? What's the plan you guys got in place to make sure folks, the families at least, are relieved about safety in your schools?
Yeah, so Marietta City Schools is fortunate to have a close partnership with the Marietta Police Department. We have our school resource officers that are span across our schools, pre-K through high school. So there's a lot of layers of support that we have. This year, something that is new is that we will have pass-through weapons detection in our schools. So we might have used that in the past for football games and basketball games and graduation. But as we think about what families want, certainly I join you here as a superintendent, but also as a father. We will have those pass-through weapons detections up at our middle schools and high schools, and it's just another layer. So therefore, children make good decisions, and our adults know that we're taking every effort possible to make sure our kids are safe.
Talk to us about the no phone in the classroom pilot program that you have.
Yeah, so Chesley, the reality is that the conversation nationally around cell phones and children and distractions, I would say even for us as adults too, is important. And this past year, state of Georgia really led the conversation, and there was legislation passed under the direction of Representative Scott Hilton, signed by the governor, that said bell to bell in grades kindergarten through 8th grade, no cell. So what that means basically is there's an expectation that children are not with their cell phones during the school day. In Marietta, a year ago, we launched this if you will, cell phone smartwatch limitation in our middle grades. That was done through Yonder pouches. It was incredibly successful. And we've now rolled the concept up, although slightly different, up to high school. We want our kids not to have cell phones, smartwatches, AirPods, personal laptops, and devices. At the end of the day, we want them locked in on a teacher. At the end of the day, we want them present in our classrooms and not distracted.
Yeah. Have you gotten much pushback from this program from some of the parents, some of the kids?
You know, it's interesting, Chesley. I respect the fact that families believe it may be their right to reach a child during the school day. And I think we as educators have to acknowledge those are important dynamics for families. And whether it's based out of fear or whether it's based out of convenience, that's real. And in middle grades, we've had a lot of success with families understanding that they can cut the cord from their kid for 8 hours a day. In high school, there really is an expectation they be able to reach their kids at different times during the day. What we've said in Marietta is we're going to protect class time. They want to reach their kid during class change or cafeteria. We're going to allow that flexibility and treat kids perhaps as adults. But it's a distraction, Chesley, and certainly I have great concerns as an educator and father. We're just trying to protect our kids and let them be present at school and build those meaningful relationships.
Yep, gotcha. All right, what do you want the students themselves to say about the district by the time we get to the end of the school year?
I hope our students, almost all 9,000 of them, know that there are caring adults who love them. And I hope they walk through this year and run through this year with the excitement. I hope they build those core memories, those lasting relationships. And I hope they know that everybody in Marietta is here to see them be successful.
Sounds good. Dr. Grant Rivera, thanks so much for joining us, and success to you for a great year.
All right, my friend, great to see you. Wishing you a great year as well.
All right, take care now. All right, coming up a little bit later, we're going to hear from the superintendent of Fulton County Public Schools to learn what they're doing and what their outlook is for the upcoming school year. I know it's hot. That's what they're going to have to look forward to when they go outside, hopefully with those new school uniforms and back to school, fresh clothes and sneakers. They'll be on the cool side. You can see where you have the clouds outside right now. You're looking at a look over toward downtown Atlanta that looks cloudy and gray. Believe it or not, folks, that clouds, or at least those clouds, will help to keep us on the cooler side for this afternoon. We reached 100 degrees yesterday, so those clouds should help us out. Some rain coming out of those clouds a little bit later on this afternoon. All right, they don't jump, they don't fly, but head lice can still take over a classroom faster than recess ends. Data from the CDC shows an estimated 6 to 12 million infestations occur annually in the United States among children 3 to 11 years of age. Head lice infestations is more common in girls than boys, often due to more head-to-head contact, and their eggs, or nits, hatch about 6 to 9 days, and lice matures quickly right there on the scalp. Joining us now is Dan Suter, University of Georgia professor of urban entomology. And Dr. Suter, welcome back to the show.
Good morning, Chesley. Spoke to you just a couple weeks ago about Asian needle ants.
Hey, man, look, we'll always have you on the show, especially when it comes to topics like this.
Happy to do it.
Oh, man. So what makes head lice such a good living space on the human head, on the scalp?
Yeah, so head lice they're ectoparasites, they're obligate ectoparasites of humans. So, and they like to live on our head. They can't live really anywhere else but the hair on our head. And they get in, they suck our blood. So that's what parasites do. They don't transmit any diseases. It's pretty traumatic for a child to have head lice, I think. But there's really no shame in it. It's a pretty common occurrence, especially in small children in school age. And heading back to school is a really good time to start talking about it and really start addressing the situation, I think. Absolutely.
What makes it so hard for us to get rid of them?
So they have, if you Google head louse and look at a picture, they have claws that allow them to grab onto our hair, and they don't let go. And if a louse gets off of your head, it's off of someone's head, it'll die of desiccation. It'll dry out and die in just 24 hours or so. So that's why we call them obligate ectoparasites, because they have to, kind of like fleas. Fleas are obligate ectoparasites as well. They have to live on the animal. And so the climate of the head and the hair and their food is right there, and the temperature is right there. It makes it a perfect environment for them. So if they get off someone's head, they die pretty quickly. So we don't really see a lot of transmission of lice from person to person in the off-person environment, right? So typically, head lice are transmitted from person to person when we touch heads. And so with cell phones today, kids are always taking, you're going to take selfies, and you're going to be out on the playground, and you're going to be playing with each other and taking those selfies, and that's how head lice are transmitted.
So with a hat transfer, you mentioned the cell phone, those type of things is really how it's easier done?
Yeah, to be on the safe side, we want to be careful, especially combs, right? So girls will share brushes together. And what a brush will do is, so we have something, the head louse is probably 1/8 of an inch long, but they have eggs that they lay at the base of the scalp on the hair, and it's called a nit. The louse egg is called a nit. And those can be transmitted in a comb. So if you are sharing a brush and you get some nits on the brush and you give it to your friend and she combs her hair, that's how she can get transmitted. She can get nits then in her hair, they hatch, and then you have adult head lice in her hair. So really the best way to get rid of head lice is manually, is with a comb. There are head louse combs that you can go in and literally physically remove. The teeth of the comb are really small. The gap between the teeth are really small, and so that allows for the removal of the nits and the adults. And so when you do that, kind of dip it in some hot soapy water, and maybe before you go to school in the next couple of weeks, look at your child's hair and see if you see any evidence of head lice and address that situation. There are some shampoos that are also available that have medications in them that will kill the adult lice, but they don't kill the nits, right? So that's why it's a two-pronged approach to control. It's a shampoo. If those don't work, maybe go to your school nurse or go to your pediatrician. They might be able to prescribe something
Gotcha. All
different. And that combined with the comb is really important.
Gotcha. Professor Suter, you're making me itch, so we're going to have to go, man. Thanks so much. Of course, we'll talk to you soon. There's going to be plenty of topics to talk to you about, I'm sure. All right?
Thanks, Chesley.
Take care. All right, when we return, we're going to be joined by CNN's Maribel Aber to get the latest on the trade deal between China and the U.S. We'll be back right after this. All right, welcome back to the show. We're expecting to see more eyes than normal on today's Federal Reserve as it announced its decision on interest rates. CNN's Maribel Aber joins us now from the NASDAQ market site in New York. Good morning to you, Maribel. And first of all, sounds like this decision could hint at the next moves as far as the nation's economy goes.
It could be, Chesley. So Fed Chair Jerome Powell will give the latest decision on interest rates later today. And it comes on the heels of a tension-filled visit by President Trump to the Federal Reserve's renovation site just days ago, where the two men had a very public disagreement over cost overruns. Most analysts expect the key rate to be held steady again. It's currently between 4.25 and 4.5%. However, this time, two Fed governors involved in the rate decision are a potential no vote on keeping the rate locked. And if that happens, it will be the first time multiple governors have dissented since 1993, Chesley.
All right. Two major railroads are exploring a deal that could reshape the nation's freight network, and that includes Atlanta-based Norfolk Southern.
That's right. So Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern unveiled a $72 billion merger plan Tuesday. The coupling would create America's first transcontinental freight railroad. Union Pacific serves the western U.S., while Norfolk Southern covers the eastern parts of the country. The once longtime Virginia-based Norfolk Southern moved its operational headquarters over there to Atlanta in 2018. The merger could force the other two major freight railroads, Burlington Northern Santa Fe and CSX, to partner up to stay competitive. And the deal needs approval by the antitrust regulators to move forward. But if approved, Chesley, the deal has potential to sort of reshape U.S. freight logistics and trigger new scrutiny from regulators and shippers. Think airline mergers.
Yeah, we'll wait to see that. All right, the White House tariff deal, a deadline, is on Friday, and we're hearing no deal between U.S. and China.
Okay, U.S.-China trade talks ended Tuesday in Stockholm. No deal. Failure to reach a final agreement means ultra-high tariffs on both sides could return starting August 12th. Now, for now, there's a pause on the massive levies initially imposed in May. China dropped their 145% down to 10 on U.S. goods, while the U.S. went from 145% to 30 on theirs. The Treasury Secretary signaled that a pause extension is likely, but President Trump will ultimately make that call. So, Chesley, no deal means more uncertainty for the stock market, and so we got to keep watching.
Yeah, we'll keep watching it. All right, sticking with tariffs, sounds like even our laundry and our bathroom breaks could cost us more money.
Yeah, I mean, tariffs may have you paying more for toilet paper soon. Chesley, Procter & Gamble, maker of Several household staples like Charmin TP and Tide detergent is planning a price hike on a quarter of all of its goods next month. The company's Q2 earnings Tuesday showed a $1 billion loss in revenue for the period. P&G also announced in June it would slash about 6% of its workforce over the next 2 years and eliminate some products altogether in certain markets. So the company joins a long list of others that are increasing prices, citing often erratic U.S. trade policy. So we're talking the likes of Nike, Walmart, Best Buy, Ford, and Subaru have all said they too will have to charge for more for their products. Chesley, remember when we couldn't find TP? And we would have paid more. And in most cases, when we found it, we actually did.
Absolutely. There were some folks that I knew was selling it on the side. I had to go get mine on the side, you know? Oh, my goodness.
Profit hustle.
Yes, indeed.
Chesley.
Maribel, thanks so much. We'll see you again tomorrow. All right, folks, on the other side of this break, we're going to have a conversation with the Fulton County School Superintendent about going back to school and what the kids can look forward to. This is The Take on the ATL and 11Alive Plus. We're back right after this. All right, welcome back to the show. We do apologize. We're waiting on Superintendent Dr. Mike Looney to join us. Before he does, we're going to get this forecast for you, and hopefully he'll join us soon. Now, we're looking at cloudy skies on the outside. Those clouds, folks, helping us today, all right? I know it looks a little gloomy on the outside. You're probably thinking, oh, man, it's going to rain at any time. That is the possibility, but more likely once we get toward the afternoon. Those clouds will help to keep us cooler today than we have been. Yesterday, we reached a high of 100 degrees. The day before was 99. We reached 100 degrees yesterday. That was in part due to the sunshine that we had early on in the afternoon. And the rain really didn't show up until after about 7 or 8 o'clock. And so we had all that sunshine during the afternoon to help to boost that temperature up. I don't think that's going to be the case today. As you can see, we have the clouds in place right now. Unless those clouds break down quickly and we get more sunshine in before more of those thunderstorms come back to us, then our temperature will be kept down just a little bit. You can see a few showers up here to the north of Athens. Sprinkles at best, folks. Temperatures are starting off in the 70s, but we will see them heat up as we head through the day into the 90s once again. So I'm thinking right around 93 degrees for your afternoon high temperature. A little different than 100, right? All right, and so with the humidity that's out there, it's going to feel like the mid to upper 90s. There are some spots maybe that can get into the 100s as far as the heat index goes today, but you're looking at, generally speaking, a temperature in the low 90s. Now, keep in mind, we should be around 90 degrees for this time of year. All right, and so we're closer to that than we are to the century mark. And so that's some good news for us, or a little bit of relief. It's still going to be a hot and humid afternoon for us, but at least we don't have to worry about those well above average temperatures. Now, we do have the heat advisory that's going to last until 8 o'clock tonight. You can see the highlighted counties here in orange. Rome, Atlanta, Athens, down to Macon is where we have the possibility for a heat index above the 100-degree mark. So 105 is typically where you'll see these heat advisories issued. We're going to look at that for this afternoon. Now, you'll notice up here to the northeast, North Georgia mountains, we're fine, and over to our extreme eastern counties, not under that advisory. Where we have that advisory, again, it will be hot and humid. You need to take the breaks, folks. Take advantage of not being outside when the temperatures and conditions get the way they do. Heat illness can set in quite quickly, and so you want to make sure you take the necessary precautions to keep your body safe. Okay, we're going to see these showers begin to develop once we get into the afternoon today, where we have those embedded thunderstorms. We're talking about some brief heavy rain, also some frequent lightning. The wind associated with that, which should stay below severe criteria, but certainly we'll be watching out for that this afternoon as well. Our winds will stay on the light side, but one or two of those isolated showers could see some peak winds with that as well. You notice the Storm Prediction Center has this light green shade over us. That just means a general threat for thunderstorms. We're not looking at any severe weather. Most of that will stay well north of us today. We've got marginal threats up to our north. For us, again, the general threat just means a couple thunderstorms will be around the area. Doesn't mean that we can't see a tree or two get knocked down. We saw that last night with some of those thunderstorms coming through. Each and every afternoon, that's the way it's going to be. We got a 40% chance for each day for those scattered showers. Thunderstorms going to stay that way as we head through the weekend. It goes down finally by Sunday, but cooler air will come our way as we head into Sunday as well. We'll be right back right after this. All right, we continue with our back-to-school preview now by taking a look at Fulton County School District. And joining us now is Superintendent Dr. Mike Looney. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. It's good to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. You've stressed the importance of a all-in on day one. What new approaches are you taking to improve the attendance of and keeping your students connected all school year?
Absolutely. We know, based on what the research says, that there is a direct link between student attendance and its academic outcomes, and that begins on day one. So we had last Saturday 2 first day Fulton events where we had 13,000 of our families come to an event and get all the information they need to be successful. We're promoting every student to come to school on the very first day. We have several innovative approaches with some municipalities. Our local schools are doing a myriad of things just to make sure that we get started off on the right foot with all of our 86,000 students, and that is by showing up on time on the first day of school, which is right around the corner.
Right around the corner. You know, Dr. Looney, last year we saw your school district consolidate schools, which is an emotional thing for families. How are you balancing the financial responsibility and maintaining community trust in the neighborhood and identity?
Well, thankfully, our school board has been very focused on finances for years. And so we're in a good financial position, but I will tell you, the dollars are getting tighter. Our enrollment is declining slowly but surely. And so we're trying to make the very most of every dollar that we have, making sure that our taxpayers get a good return on their investment. And I have every confidence that we'll continue doing that moving forward. And that's evidenced by the fact that we're 99% staffed for the school year already, which is, I think, the highest staffing rate that we've had in over a decade.
Talk to me about the financial situation for the new school year. How is things looking?
Well, this school year, we're going to be tightening our belts somewhat. It's really the year after this coming school year where we're going to have to really focus on making some cuts. But we've done some this year. We have a process called Glide, just slowly but surely kind of gliding our way to financial stability long term.
Safety is one of the number one issues in schools this year, obviously. Talk to me about what measures you guys have in place.
Well, we don't want to give all of our secrets away, but I will tell you, we have added K9 officers to our repertoire or to our tool cabinet. And so we now have 3 K9 officers that are working in hand with our school resource officers to make sure that our students are safe. We have state-of-the-art security systems. I wouldn't say it's Fort Knox in Fulton County schools, but we're making sure that we invest our dollars in ways that are meaningful, that provide a safe learning environment for our students, our staff members, and our visitors.
Yeah, you got about a minute to tell me this. We got about a minute left. Tell me, look down the road 5 years from now. How do you hope Fulton County schools will look by then?
Well, we're going to continue growing academically. Our school board has some very audacious goals. We're striving for a 95% graduation rate. And so we're doing well. We're making progress every year, but we're not quite there. We also want to make sure that our students are reaching their full potential in the arts and athletics, academics as well. And then finally, making sure that when you walk across the stage here in Fulton County, that graduation diploma means that you're career ready, that you have the ability to go into the military, go straight into the workforce, or continue your formal education in a post-secondary institution.
Sounds good. Dr. Mike Looney, thanks for joining us, and success to you for the new school year.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that's all we have for you today. Try to make it a great one and try to encourage someone today. Why don't you? We'll see you again tomorrow.